You are what you digest. So people say you are what you eat, but actually, you can eat as healthy as you want, but if you're not digesting your food and absorbing those nutrients, then you actually aren't eating as healthy as you really think you are. What is the gut? A lot of people don't really understand what this is. So really it's just another word for the digestive system. So your GI, your digestive tract, basically your body's way of absorbing nutrients, all the way from what goes into what comes out. Our gut has actually been coined as our second brain. And the reason being for that is that your gut actually sends neurotransmitters to your brain 10 times more than the brain sends neurotransmitters to the gut, which is pretty crazy. And your gut actually controls your mental health. So, someone who might be dealing with depression, it might actually be rooted in a gut imbalance. What is the gut linked to? And I put this on a picture of a black hole because black holes are really like mysterious and intriguing. And that's kind of how I feel about the gut. It wasn't until very recently that this even became a topic of research. People just thought it was just like a tube that went through your body, your food passed through, and that was it. But what we've learned is that actually isn't the case. This tube has a lot of importance and it has a lot going on behind the scenes. So your gut is actually linked to your immune system, mood, mental health and depression, autoimmune diseases, endocrine disorders, skin conditions, cancer, chronic disease, metabolisms, craving and appetite, absorption of nutrients, cognition or brain fog, and gene expression. Your gut is made up of the microbiome. So as you can see in the picture, kind of imagine like all these little bacteria dudes populating in there. And they run the show down there. So the bacteria, the good and the bad, they're both down there. And there's actually 100 trillion microbes that make up your gut. The gut microbes are actually where the action goes down. So the microbes control and participate in all of your bodily functions. I mean, like I said, your food has to pass through those microbes to even be excreted. Okay, so if you are not, if you're having issues with digestion or bloating or something like that, this is where the root of it all is. This is where that's coming from. They can be the root cause and solution for many health troubles. And having a wide variety of the good bacteria in your gut can enhance your immune system function, improve symptoms of depression, help combat obesity, and provide numerous other benefits. Your microbiome is involved with digestion, absorption of nutrients, and it helps protect the lining of your digestive tract. So we'll talk a little bit more about the lining of your digestive tract a little later on, but they basically protect the bad guys from getting into your bloodstream. So they protect that lining so that they can't pass through that barrier. And they help to signal our brain when we're hungry and also whether we're full and what we want. So these are linked to cravings and appetite. So this could be another root of someone who might be having unwanted weight gain. It's actually because their body may not be absorbing nutrients, and their body knows that you eat food, you get nutrients. So it's increasing your cravings for food so that you can get those nutrients. All right, so if you're experiencing any sort of issues that we kind of talked about, whether it be the autoimmune disorders, some sort of skin rashing, or the GI distress, such as the bloating, these are some problems that you potentially could have. And the first is an imbalanced gut microbiome. So essentially, this is called dysbiosis. What this is when you have more harmful microbes than beneficial ones. So the bad guys are outweighing the good guys. And so they've been overgrown, or it's also possible that you don't have enough beneficial bacteria or not enough diversity of the microbes. So this can be caused by GI infections, such as diarrhea, food poisoning, stomach bugs, stuff like that. Chronic stress, because stress absolutely is related to your gut health and everything else. Low stomach acid. Your stomach acid helps to kind of kill off a lot of those bad pathogens that might be on the food. And if you have low stomach acid, your body is not able to kill those off. So you can get bad bacteria in the deeper ends of your gut that aren't supposed to be there. And one way to really ensure that the stomach acid is able to work properly is making sure that you eat at least for 12 minutes when you're eating and digesting your food. Toxins. And then SAD, that's the standard American diet. So unfortunately, the standard American diet, 75% of the foods in the standard American diet do not feed your gut, aka prebiotics, so food for your gut or fiber. This, when I'm talking about the standard American diet, we're talking about those processed foods such as pizza and hot dogs and potato chips and all that stuff that's highly processed, usually made from white flour, the white breads, stuff like that. And then this also goes all the way back to birth. If you were not breastfed, unfortunately, you were not set up with your mother's microbiome, which is actually passed to you through the breast milk. If you were born via C-section, you were born into a sterile environment. So that puts you at risk for having not as much of a flourishing, I guess, gut microbiome. And same with antibiotics. So when you take antibiotics, your gut microbiome is completely wiped out. They kill all the good and the bad because, we can't really differentiate between the two at this time. So they just wipe them all out. So anytime you are on probiotic or antibiotics for any reason, you absolutely need to make sure you take a probiotic after you are off of them. The next problem that you could be facing is leaky gut. So this is another name for intestinal permeability. And basically what this is, as you can see in the picture, the little wall between our cells or between our gut wall is one cell thick. So the reason for that is that so we can absorb nutrients more easily. Once they're digested, they can pass right through. The problem is when you have increased intestinal permeability, that little wall breaks down and it allows undigested food particles and toxins to pass into our bloodstream. So all this crap is going right into your bloodstream. So that's going to cause an inflammatory response in your body. So when you think about an inflammatory response, think about like if you scrape your knee, your body, works to clot the blood and close up that wound and eventually form a scab and eventually heal it. And that's what's happening in your body constantly when you have a leaky gut. Your body's constantly in an inflammatory response. And we'll talk about that a little later on. But as you can see in the picture, the stuff is just flowing right in when you have a leaky gut. It really causes a widespread immune attack. And this can be caused by stress, dysbiosis, infection, chronic stress, gluten, zonulin. And zonulin is actually a protein that is created when we eat gluten. So we don't really know why it's created when we eat gluten, and it is created by some other foods as well. But when we eat gluten, our body produces zonulin, and zonulin increases intestinal permeability. So also inflammation from ulcerative colitis, food sensitivities, medication, alcohol, cigarettes, yada, yada, yada. And then the last problem, which I touched on, was inflammation. So like I said, inflammation is a response of any immune system to any threat, infection, or injury. So like I said, when you fall and you scrape your knee and your body has to work to fix that. But the problem is when you have chronic inflammation or widespread inflammation that is constantly happening in your body. So it's not just that scrape of the knee. It's like having that scrape of the knee that never ever heals. It causes perpetual damage, causing a variety of symptoms. This response is important. So inflammation is caused by food sensitivities because your body's launching an attack on itself or the bad microbes in your gut. So when you're eating things, like I've talked about before, how I have a dairy sensitivity, it's not like life altering where like I vomit or break out into hives or anything like that when I eat dairy, but I do notice that I don't feel well. I get that bloating, I get really tired. And that's how I've realized it's a food sensitivity. So that's my body launching attack basically on itself. So while I do love, some cheese or something like that once in a while, it's really not good for my gut health or my body in general to put it in that widespread chronic inflammation. And inflammation is really the root of every single chronic disease, whether it be diabetes, heart disease, high cholesterol, really anything. It's all rooted in inflammation. Here are some symptoms of an unhealthy gut. So you're wondering, do I have an unhealthy gut? I'm sorry, this slide is really wordy, but there was just so much to put in here. So the first thing is upset stomach, like I said. So bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, heartburn. These are pretty clear symptoms that you either ate something that has some sort of pathogen on it, or your digestive system is not in a healthy place, because a healthy digestive system moves freely without that bloating and all that stuff. Do you eat a high sugar or processed food diet? If you're someone who eats a high sugar and processed food diet, the good bacteria in your gut are kind of eaten away by the bad bacteria. They outweigh them because you're not feeding the good bacteria with those good prebiotic foods. So this can cause increased sugar cravings, which can damage your gut further. What about unintentional weight changes? So are you gaining or losing weight without making really any changes to your routine? This could be caused by SIBO, or it could be caused by insulin resistance, or the urge to overeat due to decreased nutrient absorption. Sleep disturbances or fatigue. The majority of the body's serotonin is created in the gut. So if you're not creating serotonin, not only are you going to feel more depressed, but you're going to have more difficulty sleeping. So that is produced in your gut. Skin rashes. So I mentioned eczema earlier. So you've got this chronic inflammation going on, and the leaking of that garbage into your gut, the undigested food, that can result in the skin irritation and the eczema. Autoimmune condition, once again, chronic inflammation leading to this. And then lastly, food intolerances. So the food intolerances, your body's reacting to something that you're putting in there that it doesn't agree with. Just a couple other problems that someone might face that you've probably heard of: IBS, IBD, and SIBO. IBS is irritable bowel syndrome. And this, I really always say, it's just kind of like a coverall term for you've got something going on in your gut and we don't know what it is. There's really no test for this. They might test you for other things and come back and give you this. So it's really just like a negative test to anything else you might get dealing with your gut. Irritable bowel disease is actually the opposite, when your body is physically attacking itself when you are eating something. And there are tests for these that your doctor can test for, such as Crohn's or ulcerative colitis or even celiac. So these are autoimmune diseases when your body essentially attacks itself. And then the last is SIBO. This is actually something that's been emerging in research and something that we didn't know about until really recently. And this is basically when there's a small intestine bacterial overgrowth. And the problem with this is that your small intestine is essentially supposed to be sterile. So there should be no bacteria going up into there, but it's likely because there's your lower digestive tract or colon isn't colonized with the proper bacteria, and things aren't digesting properly back there. So things back up into your small intestine. And you would potentially know if this was going on if you feel really full after eating, you feel really bloated, kind of like you have like a lump in your stomach, or like it's coming back out, and excess gas, fatigue. And there is a breath test that can test for this kind of. So here's what you can do. This is a protocol created by the Institute of Functional Medicine, and this is what you can do to heal your gut, even if you don't really have a serious gut issue that you know of. It's not a bad thing for us to do, maybe a couple times a year, just to see if we have any sensitivities that we didn't know about or that have developed. So the 5 R's: remove, replace, repair, repopulate, and relax. So step 1, remove. So this is what you do. You remove all food and substances known to promote inflammation, cause or worsen leaky gut and bad bacteria microbes. So, some examples of those things could be the artificial sweeteners, which have actually been found to completely wipe out your gut bacteria, so your good bacteria, and promote the growth of bad gut bacteria. So if you talked to me like a few years ago, I was like, oh yeah, whatever, use your fake sugars. But now I do not promote those, because like we have learned already, your gut is so incredibly important. And these are completely wiping out your gut health, i.e. your mental health, i.e. your immune system, everything else that goes along with that. So sweeteners are no bueno. Coffee does affect it, but less than 12 ounces a day is usually fine, because coffee also is a prebiotic, so it's kind of like a in moderation type of thing. Oils, so bad oils. So avocado oil, olive oil, or coconut oil are oils that are not rancid and they are not inflammatory. They're good oils that you can use. Unfortunately, corn oil, which I find it laughable that they put this like heart healthy, cholesterol free label on their bottles, because this is one of the most inflammatory oils and highly processed that you can consume. So corn oil, sunflower oil, vegetable oil, you really want to avoid all of those. And alcohol and medications like acetaminophen and aspirin, if you use those chronically, you might want to try and reduce those if possible. So how you would do this is you would plan a elimination diet, which typically like a dietitian would help you with this type of thing. But, if you wanted to really do this yourself, I would say, try 1 month without gluten or dairy, because 4 in 7 Americans have a gluten or dairy intolerance. So I think that's a really good place to start. So I would say eliminate that one thing for 1 month. See how you feel every single day, eating your pre and probiotics. And after the month, if you notice you have reduced brain fog, less of that like 3 p.m. energy slump, or improve skin with like the eczema, then I would say keep it out of your system. Maybe it's fine and it's not affecting you like that. That's really something that you find through an elimination diet like this. And then another way to reduce inflammation is obviously by eating anti-inflammatory foods. So examples of those would be plants, of course, fruit, turmeric, greens, flax seeds, ginger probiotics, and salmon, good old salmon. I always say everyone should eat salmon at least once a week, just at least once. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, and you know what else I wanted to say? Anyone who has joint pain, if you were doing an elimination diet, nightshades would be something you should consider eliminating from your diet. So nightshades are a certain group of foods that might normally be deemed healthy, like bell peppers, and tomatoes and potatoes, but they're actually can be inflammatory to some people. Not to say everyone shouldn't eat them, because I think the pros outweigh the cons, but if you have inflammation issues, then that's something to look at. Step 2, replace. We talked a little bit about stomach acid earlier, and if you have low stomach acid, you might burp a lot, bloating after meals, feeling like you have a rock in your stomach after eating. So this could mean you have low stomach acid. So like I said, eat your meals slowly, so 10 to 15 minutes, allowing those stomach acids to build up as you're eating and allowing your body to create those. Next would be digestive enzymes. As we age, our body releases less digestive enzymes. It's just the way it goes. So basically, as you get older, your digestive system doesn't run as smoothly. And I can tell you firsthand, working in long-term care, almost every single person is on a laxative for this reason. If you can substitute your digestive enzymes with the supplement. So I put this Now Super Enzymes. Now is like a pretty good, reputable supplement brand. So those are an option. And then bile, it's something that your gallbladder releases. And if you do not have a gallbladder, this is crucial that you replace it. So you can get digestive enzymes with bile acids in them. The next is cleansing waves. And this is basically like, this is something kind of like what intermittent fasting people talk about a little bit. It's allowing your digestive system to clear out. So at least 12 hours a day, which isn't that hard to do. So like between dinner and breakfast, you can easily not eat for 12 hours so that your body can basically clear out any of the bad garbage that's in that digestive system, get rid of the bad bacteria, and promote the good bacteria. So that's really what a cleansing wave is. And then last, replace any nutrients that you might be deficient in. So we all live in Ohio. 90% of us, especially even year round, because most of us work all day, so we're not getting any natural sunlight. And most of the vitamin D foods we're not eating regularly. So vitamin D is something that, most of you guys should be supplementing right now if you're not. And that could be another reason why you're feeling tired. 2000 IU is like a pretty good standard replacement the winter months. And, like in women, iron is another supplement that's pretty important, B12. So those, and obviously always consult your doctor before even thinking about doing any of these. Step 3, repair. So we're going to repair those intestinal walls. And bone broth is something that's huge right now. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's basically like soup broth made with like the chicken bones. And you, keep that fat layer that forms on the top. You basically just soak your bones in water and form this bone broth. And it's so good for your gut. So that gelatin that is formed from the bone broth, or even just eating natural gelatin, lines the digestive tract and smooths it out and puts in that good, healthy gut bacteria. It's a source of fuel for our cells. Zinc carnosine is something that you can take, but it's something that you only want to take for 1 month. And then colostrum from a cow. It's a little weird. It's a little expensive, but it's really good for your gut health. So something you could try if you were at that point. Step 4, repopulate. So you want to replenish your gut with all of the good things. So first is probiotics. So I've talked a lot about probiotics, and these are really the things that are natural probiotics. Foods like kimchi, yogurt, miso, kefir, tempeh, sauerkraut. Even kombucha is really popular right now. It's a yummy drink. Kefir, if you've never heard of it, it's basically like a drinkable yogurt, but it has a lot more strains of bacteria in it than a typical yogurt. Yogurt might have 2 or 3 or 4 strains, whereas kefir might have 12 to 14. And like we talked about, diversity is important, and so the more the merrier. I don't know if I said fermented foods. But fermented foods that are refrigerated. So if you see like pickles, shelf-stable pickles at the store, those are going to be sterile and they're not going to have any good bacteria in them. So you want to eat these things. And this really goes back to, if you think about like Japanese culture, those people live forever. They are the oldest living people in the world, 100 plus years old, 120. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they eat these natural fermented foods all the time. They eat miso soup before every single meal. They put kimchi on all of their foods, and they're eating salmon all the time, which is anti-inflammatory. So they're really setting their gut up for the perfect balance, or what you use to feed your probiotics. If you are taking a probiotic and you do not eat these things, then you should definitely get a probiotic that has prebiotics in it. So prebiotics are literally any plant food. So yay for plants. The highest prebiotic food is actually like unripe green bananas, Jerusalem artichokes, and then onions and garlic have a lot. The berries, the leafy greens, the legumes, all of that good stuff. They are all high in prebiotics. And then polyphenols are kind of like the last component to this. So these are really just antioxidants, and they also feed that good bacteria and increase the diversity and strength of the microbiome. So these are really like mainly like purple and red and blue foods, like the red onion and the blueberries, but also the broccoli and, one of my favorites, dark chocolate. So a little bit of that dark chocolate can actually do a world, good quality dark chocolate, and even black coffee actually here is its positive side, does have some really good polyphenols and antioxidants in it. So these are things, I always say eat berries every day if you can. Eating salmon every day might be a little harder. Eat berries every day, or, the red onions or the broccoli or whatever, fits more into your lifestyle. But they're great for you and they prevent cancer and disease. So last step, relax. And this is so, so important. I can't say it enough how much stress is related to every single disease, every single weight gain. I mean, all of it. When your stress response is activated, that activates your adrenal gland. So that fight or flight system, that little caveman in you is saying, something's going on. I need to go into survival mode because something's not right. And our brain doesn't process the fact that oh, I just have a lot of homework to do or work to do or whatever, our brain just sees survival mode. And so we start releasing cortisol. We start, and the release of cortisol ends our short-term stress, but it triggers fat storage and increased cravings and appetite. And what really happens is once response is overactivated is it becomes a never-ending cycle. It's continually activated, and as we already talked about, that negatively affects and impairs your gut health. So how can you relax? We've talked about stress control in previous webinars and stuff like that, but obviously I always say exercise. I love to just exercise, turn on my music, get into my own world, and just kind of tune everything else out. And that's my stress reliever for me. And it's different for everyone. For you, it might be gardening, going on a bike ride, meditation. Obviously I promote, and yoga, whatever it is for you. I highly encourage that you find ways and an outlet for this, because letting it build up inside of you obviously has really more negative effects on your health than we ever realized before. So these are some really good different probiotics that you can use if you are looking to supplement. Obviously, I always promote food first, eat healthy foods, those pre and probiotics that are natural, because those can really get further and deeper down into the gut. But this is like my one thing that I live by is probiotics. I always take them. I always have noticed a difference with how much they improve my gut health. So these are just some brands you can try. I love the Garden of Life brand. That's what I use, and you can get it at Heinen's or Whole Foods, or I've even seen them at Giant Eagle before. So really like that brand. And then last, I wanted to show this. So these are the strains. So each probiotic, and by the way, typically the best probiotics are going to be in a glass jar, typically a brown glass jar because it blocks out more light, and refrigerated. And they're going to say the specific strains of the bacteria in them. So these are some examples of those strains, Lactobacillus acidophilus, so that prevents UTIs. So if someone ever has a UTI, this is something that they could ensure to make sure their probiotic has this in there. And same with Bifidobacterium bifidum. This one is really great for constipation and regulating peristalsis, so that movement of your digestive system, the contractions that kind of push everything through. So if you struggle with that, probiotics are really going to help it. So these are all the different not all of them, but some of the different strains. So you kind of can look for those on your probiotics and see if you are looking for any of these specifically. That's something that you can be aware of. So Hippocrates said, all disease begins in the gut, and it's 100% true. So I just wanted to end on that quote. Your health starts in your gut. It's your second brain, your mental health, your immune system, everything. So it's super, super important. So that's really why I kind of wanted to do this webinar in this today. So that is all. Does anyone have any questions? Actually, this is a test you can do. Oh shoot, I think it's milk. So if you break the capsule of the probiotic into a glass of milk and it starts fermenting, kind of like yogurt, that's how you know if they are good quality probiotics. So that's a test you can do. Typically there are some non-refrigerated ones that are okay, but a lot of times they are not the best. And if you're spending the money on them, you want to make sure that you're getting a good brand and effective use out of them. Yeah. So, and like another ringer for like not good quality is if it does not say those strains on them, it doesn't say specifically what strains, then that's kind of like, I don't know if those are going to be effective and good. All right. Any other questions? Welcome. Hopefully this was helpful. I hope you have a great Friday night. And eat your fermented foods, okay? Okay, bye.